We started, so was it last week or earlier this week? We did a little, in the low back, when we undraped to here, we did some gluteal work up here, right? Remember that? Where we did that like forearm work here in the QL, and then we did some forearm work here, in that glute medius, and just above that greater trochanter and that glute medius also. So that's part of your hip work, but that comes from, as you're working on the low back, all right? So we're not doing that part today. We're going to do this part. And so we're going to undrape the gluteal area. And today I asked your clients to either have no underwear, or if they're wearing a thong, they can wear their thong, just so that we can practice working on the glutes, right? And so this would be something that you would clarify with your client before they get on the table, right? How are you feeling today? You would ask them about glute work, right? Because that's not something that's standard, right? So even if you're doing a full body, you would say, hey, are you okay with me working on your glutes? Or is there anywhere you don't want me to work, like your glutes? Like that's one of those places that people will sometimes say, no, I'd rather you just not work there, right? And so we respect that if that's their wish. But then, if they're open to it, we can, let them know, hey, once I get in there, if you change your mind or if you start feeling differently, just let me know and communicate. And we can either switch gears, we can do something differently, we can just work through the sheet instead of directly on your skin. Or we can just skip it, right? And we can just save it for another day, whenever you feel like you can handle it better. That's fine too. Or we never have to bring it up again, right? It's your body, it's your choice. So I'm just starting here, I'm kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern, just doing a little bit of rocking. You guys might recognize from Swedish, if I did Swedish massage with you. So we're just doing a little more specific rocking, getting into the gluteals here. And you can get into even rock into the hamstrings and stuff like that too. Okay. So this drape I'm going to do is basically the same drape that you know me to do on the posterior leg, but we're going to, instead of just cutting off like here, we're gonna open up the whole gluteal area. So, but I'm going to start with my usual tuck right here, very as high as I can there, and then we're going to bring this kind of to the midline. But not all the way to the exact, well, actually, I need to wrap this first. I need to wrap it, especially when I'm doing this high drape. I like to wrap it and just give my client that extra sense of safety there. Right, so there's your wrap. And then from there, I usually try to do right about that. And so what is important when you do this drape here is that you kind of make this a little tight right here. And that you come up. Find that iliac crest. Here's your iliac crest, okay? And this part right here is going to go right up in that iliac crest and over the pelvis, and we're going to push this right up there. Okay, so this will be a little bit higher than you were probably thinking this drape would be, right? Because normally we would drape it kind of here, right? If we're just doing the leg and we're not getting into the glutes. But here in the glutes, we want to kind of drape it like that. And there may even be times whenever I'm working and I want to kind of get into the glute medius a little bit too, so there may even be times when I drape almost like this even, right? And I'm just kind of working almost this half of my client right here. But today we're just going to do this. This will be plenty for today. I'll just keep you guys here right now. So I do kind of tuck under if I need to, just neaten it up a little bit, but I'm careful not to do too much tucking in this area, just because my client's going to probably think that's getting a little close, right? So this is just you're just setting this over here and just letting that be, and then you can do your tucking and whatever adjusting kind of more in this area here. Okay. All right. So let's get in and do some work. Landmarks. You have the sacrum over here, right? You have the lumbar area, the iliac crest over here. From here, the sacrum, iliac crest. If you come inferior to the iliac crest, you'll feel the greater trochanter right about here on this client. So there's the top of the greater trochanter. There's a little softer space here in between, and then up here is the iliac crest. So in between that iliac crest and the greater trochanter, you have that glute medius again that we treated from the other direction, kind of like up here with the low back, right? So, and then here between the sacrum and the greater trochanter, you have your deep six lateral rotators, the piriformis up top, go, right? Gemellus obturator, and then Q, the quadratus femoris, right? So P, go, Q, your deep six lateral rotators there. So over top of those, we have the glute max. It's going from the iliac crest and the sacrum, all kind of covering that whole area. It hits the femur a little bit right there at the gluteal tuberosity, but then most of it continues down and joins up with the IT band to attach at the head of the fibula down here, just distal to the knee. Right, so that's kind of the zone we're going to be in today. We're probably going to get a little bit into the hamstrings and stuff too, because we're in the neighborhood. So that's just kind of getting acquainted. Would you guys like to go back and just kind of touch those things, or you want me to go ahead and do some hands-on? We can probably do some hands-on. Yeah, okay. Do some hands-on. Okay. So normally I would probably lunge here, but I'm going to stay seated.
Is it a difference?
Because this table is like at my knees here.
You're the coolest, though, Rob. You're the coolest. I enjoy when
All
you
right.
shoot people and just pepper spray them.
You want to shoot what?
Andrew, a different breed.
Okay, so we're just getting in and we're doing some opening work here on this leg, or the lower extremity here. So we are going to go ahead and say hello to the whole lower extremity. Actually, let me do that and actually say hello to the whole thing, because we're not. Well, we are focusing up in the gluteal area, and notice how that drape is coming back. So that's not a bad thing, right? If I need, so when I'm done with that area, and if it just falls back, that's fine. But if I need it back, I can just roll it up under here, and I get the drape back even better than I had it a minute ago. Because now it's not going to unfold itself. It's not going to go anywhere from there. Okay, so when we come into the gluteal compartment, we just do it as part of the rest of the leg at first, right? So there's some little bit of hand work. If I was using my palm to do that, right? I really like using my forearms though, and just kind of getting in this way. So starting with, I'm leading with my elbow. My elbow's just traveling up the hamstrings here. And we're going up between the greater trochanter and the sacrum. And then around that greater trochanter to the front, and then just lightly gliding back. I'm not really pressing on the way back. That's my return. So I'll show you that one more time. Just going up that femur, finding that space between the greater trochanter and the sacrum. And we're just sliding through there. So don't worry about pressure at first. Worry about palpation. Worry about what you're feeling. Worry about not hurting your client. Because a lot of people can have some sensitivity in here. I'm one of them. There's a certain spot in here. If you hit it just the wrong way, I'll get a cramp in my glute. And it's going to have an effect on my experience that day. Like, it'll be like, oh crap, man, I have a cramp in my glute, and like, it's not going to go anywhere until like you do something to address that. So be aware of that. When you're getting into the glutes, it's a big group, it's a big muscle group, and you know, we get really like, you can just kind of get in there, but keep in mind, it doesn't get touched a lot, right? How often do you get detailed work in here, right? Not very often at all. It's not usually a sort of detailed oriented area there. Okay, so what I'm going to do in terms of an opening, the very easy opening would be just to take a broad contact and just get the whole gluteal compartment like so, right? So I'm just kind of coming from the outside and then diagonally, so the fiber direction of the glute max is coming this way, and so I'm almost going the opposite way. I'm almost kind of squeezing the muscle in it to make it shorter there. And you know, I'm not afraid of like just constantly adjusting this, because I want to make sure it's just always where it needs to be, right? So I don't have any problem with just this thing is moving around, And so because it's moving, I'm just going to work with that, right? Just kind of, just be smooth about it. So if you want to hold that in place because you feel like, you know, you need to, you're welcome to do that. Most of the time, though, it's okay. You just need to adjust every once in a while. So this is a great opening that's very non-invasive for the client. You're just kind of getting in and doing just broad, somewhat firm, but not really invasive sort of deep gliding here, right? Once you've done that, you've really acclimated that area to this sort of work. How's that feeling in there, Tracy? By the way,
It's
I haven't
really
actually.
nice.
It's nice. Okay, good. That's what I'm going for. I want it to be really nice, because if she's in that, oh, that's really nice. I would like more of that. Don't stop. I'll tell you when to stop. That kind of mindset, that kind of feeling, that means I can do more, right? And so I can maybe add a little bit of a challenge to this. So once I feel like I can move to the next level here, then I'm going to start coming from the outside and just pushing toward the middle again. So earlier I was just pushing the whole glute compartment this way with my forearm and just going in a natural line for that forearm movement. And now I'm going to just go medially from the greater trochanter right here and push medially into the tissues and eventually into the sacrum. And what this does is you're getting into the muscle, you're applying some really nice compression, adding some really nice pressure that should make your client feel really good, but you're doing it in a way that's non-invasive. And so the alternate would be if we just come straight down from this direction, right? And so when I first learned this work, I learned going from this angle, but this angle is just a little bit more extreme. It's a little bit more intense when you're coming from this angle. And so I've learned over the years, if you start coming from the outside, even those people who are really sensitive like me, you can get in there and you can do some really good work and everything kind of lets go to a certain point. And then you can come from this direction and it's okay. But if you start by coming from the back, it can just be a little bit more invasive to your client. So here I'm using my fingertips. You saw me earlier, I was using some knuckles. So I would like you guys to practice using both of these contact points. Knuckles might be a nice way to start because it's easier for you to do. Your knuckles will feel stronger than your fingertips. And your client will feel more pressure from your knuckles than they will from your fingertips. So this is a nice way to start. Just remember, keep your elbow nice and straight here. And just gliding medially. So once I feel the edge of the sacrum right here, I don't want to go past that. So I'm just going to adjust and then come back and reset and do another pass. So that my first pass was down a little bit lower. My second pass I'm going to do a little bit higher up here. We still in that good happy zone there, Tracy?
Yes.
Okay. And this thumb is just kind of there. It's not doing anything. So it could be up in the air, but that's tension, so I just let it rest. Or I can let it rest there. Or I can even, well, that makes my fist harder, so I'll do that. Something like that. And you make whatever passes you need. So as you get up closer to the top of the trochanter here, I'll start getting my elbow into my hip right here, and that adds a little bit more pressure. So I can use less effort, right? So it's less effort, but still more. I'm still doing more work with less effort than I was just a minute ago. So this is our true deep tissue technique. You're getting in there, you're creating like a bit of a stretch, and you're maintaining that stretch. And you're allowing the body to dictate how quickly that stretch moves. Right, so she's gliding under me, you just can't really see it. Maybe you can see, I'm getting closer to this little dot right here, right? You can see that changing right there. Right, so you can see that movement there. But it's a very slow movement. Right, and now I've hit that dot, right? So you get the idea, and you can continue that movement all the way through that compartment that way, okay? That's probably good for a start, huh? So it's just a couple things, but I want you guys to take your time with it. So at the beginning, you're going to open up, just do just general broad opening for the whole lower extremity, right? And so however you choose to do that is fine. You saw me do a lot of forearm work. Mostly I want you doing whatever sort of kind of deep compressive effleurage type of work. Then we're going to get into the gluteal area. We're going to start with some forearm deep broad gliding here. Some broad gliding, not so much deep. Some broad forearm gliding, kind of in the proximal direction, going up the glute max. Okay. And then from there, we did kind of knuckles coming in medially from the greater trochanter inward. Okay. And then we did that in this whole like lower compartment, kind of like working our way up into here, into the glute medius, just between the greater trochanter and the iliac crest here. And so that'll be like that last little bit of line that you'll explore with your knuckles. And then once you've done your knuckles, so that goes, all the way there, then you're going to do your fingertips and just get in here this way. Okay. And so feel for little areas of tension, feel for areas that might maybe twitchy. Talk to your client about sensations and what might be tender and what needs attention and what doesn't need attention and that kind of stuff. Just do a nice, slow, steady treatment for your client using these techniques. And then as that clears up and this gets less noisy, then we'll start approaching from that posterior direction here. That'll be a little bit different. Okay? Let's go ahead and do that.